You're listening to episode 153 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness researchers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Tracy Heilers speaks about the new book, Educating Mindfully, Stories of School Transformation Through Mindfulness. If you're listening to this podcast and find value and insights from what is shared here, know that this can only be sustained with your generosity. Please take a moment, go to presentmomentmindfulness.com and click on Make a Donation if you value these conversations, which can't continue without your contributions. Thank you for your help and your support. While there are many people who would like to include mindfulness in their school systems, interest may outpace the skills to implement it. Having a practice is not the same as teaching others, and subtle but critical aspects may be missed by well-intentioned teachers and school administrators. Fortunately, there are resources to help with that process. Tracy Heilers is founder and executive director of Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. Since 2003, Tracy has taught yoga and mindfulness to a wide range of student groups. She completed her 200-hour yoga teacher training in 2003, 2 of Mindful Schools online courses in 2016, and a mindfulness-based stress reduction training in 2019. She grew up in Dubuque, Iowa, and has a degree in civil engineering from the University of Iowa. Our guest today is Tracy Heilers. Tracy, welcome back to the podcast. Nice to have you with us again.
Thanks, Ted.
So it's been a little over a year since you were last with us on the podcast. And for those who are listening who might want to hear that, I'll include a link to that episode 122, in which Tracy was speaking about the Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. And a lot's been happening just in this past year. So, Tracy, I'm wondering if you could just catch us up on some of the activities that COSM has been doing.
Sure. So when we last talked, we had just launched and we put together a wonderful board of directors that was helping us kind of fine tune our mission and what we wanted to accomplish during our first year. Basically had just our small volunteer team. It was enough capacity to put on our wonderful inaugural first Educating Mindfully conference. And that happened at the end of February in St. Charles, Illinois, which is a western suburb of Chicago. And it aligned with the Teacher Institute Day for 2 big counties west of Chicago. And we're very, very proud to say that we had attendees from 18 US states, as well as an educator from Japan. We had, I think it was 200 and, on our biggest day, the Friday, we had 240 attendees, but overall, over the 3 days, we had over 300 attendees. So it was really exciting. It was scary putting on the first conference as well, but it was really cool because as soon as the first few attendees showed up, and I'm thinking of Cheryl Dadwell off the top of my head from Peace of Mind. She's in Washington, D.C., and she started setting up her vendor table. And as soon as those first conversations started, and then I just realized, oh, I'm really just, this is just like a gathering with friends, like all these people I've been meeting over the last few months and chatting with on Facebook. And it was just super fun to hang with them for a few days, learn together. It was just really empowering and inspirational for everybody. So of course we were excited to put it on again. And so we're like 5 weeks away from our second conference to do it all over again. But we've had lots of ideas have been brought up to us, you know, at the conference and from different educators. And so we've had a very busy year, including a book collaboration, including our state chapters, where we have almost half of US states are represented by COSM, however you want to say it, local chapters. So communities of practice supporting teachers in different ways. Each state is kind of organically growing differently with passionate educators helping us out. And I can talk more on that. Other things this year, we've actually gotten approved by Illinois State Board of Education for an administrator academy. So that was kind of out of the blue, but we had an opportunity to apply for a grant to design one. And these are special academies that administrators need to maintain their licensure. Mm-hmm. So it was really amazing. I don't know if there's been another one in Illinois that had a mindfulness focus to it. So that was really great to get approved for that. And so we have 3 years that we're able to now go around Illinois. And we also have an online version because it's, as we all know, it's when those leaders at the top learn about mindfulness and experience mindfulness, that's when things start moving a little faster. So that was really fun to see that come to fruition.
Well, and
I can talk on all this more here. We've got lots of time, but.
Well, and really interesting, this one in particular, because one of the challenges that's faced by mindfulness teachers in the United States, at least, is we have no kind of licensure. There is no single body to which a public institution or private institution or an individual can go to and say, does this person know what they're talking about? And it sounds like this is one of the first steps in which some kind of licensure that has to do with mindfulness is showing up, and you have approval for that. And so within a particular context, I'm very excited to hear about that, and especially your chapters. Yeah. So say a little bit more about that too, and keep it coming, because this is part of what we want to talk about here, is what COSM has been up to in just, bear in mind, just a year, just a year.
No, I do want to touch on the Administrator Academy just a little bit more, because when you said licensure, so what they need to take these 6-hour courses, one of them a year, to keep their administrator licensure, but it's definitely not, it's just kind of an introduction to mindfulness for administrators. And actually, we recommend that they take it together with their wellness teams. And basically, we do a book study together with them, and then we have a few mentoring sessions with them and help them put together an implementation plan. And in that, it's a way for us, I always say that we don't want to, COSM's not trying to like recreate, and like there's so many great trainings out there already, and we're not, we like to say we're not the experts, you know, we're not like Castle and researching different curriculums and making recommendations. We just want to be a starting point for educators and administrators, and then we just kind of show them everything that is available for them to explore on their own and investigate mindfulness further. So we depending on what stage they're at and what their goals are at, we can recommend that they check out different resources and to help them move further in their journeys. But it's really great to have a starting spot for educators. And we actually just had our first in-person administrator academy in Springfield, so like Central Illinois, and 100 people signed up for it, and most of them were in the Springfield school district. So that was really exciting and a nice way to start off our 3-year approval for that. But yes, so that kind of links in with chapters, because after we do this introduction, this 6-hour course, and at the end of it, we suggest that in Springfield that they start up a local COSM chapter so that they can continue their learning together, and that basically we can help mentor them, hook them up with different people that can support them in their chapter, bring people to lead workshops for them or whatnot. But so far in Illinois, we have 5 local chapters, and they've been meeting about once a month starting this fall. Like way out in DeKalb, we have one, so it's more rural Illinois, a little over an hour or hour and a half from Chicago. And then we have one at University of Chicago Laboratory Schools. We have up on the North Shore. We've partnered with Case DuPage, which is the special education cooperative. So it's really great when we can find partnerships and then to spread the word about these communities of practice. And each one has like 1 to 2 chapter meeting facilitators, and they bring in guest presenters. And so each one's totally different based on who's showing up. And some of them we're just starting with 2 or 3 people. Some have 5 or 6 people starting. So it's very grassroots, inspired action. But it's been really fun to go to all the first meetings that have happened and to see how they're already growing. It's not just the school district and the educators in one school meeting together, maybe having a mindfulness committee, but when you see them, different districts talking to each other and seeing what each other are doing, that's when the change is going to be taking place even quicker, I think.
Yeah, that's where you're going to see the exponential growth as people are learning from each other, that there's going to be a brilliant idea over here and there, and COSM gives the ability to bring those together by connecting those people. And that you had 100 people in this, that's a third of the attendees from your first conference.
Yeah.
And having a first conference that had that many, 300 people is amazing. So I'm really eager to catch up with you later about, after the second conference in a few weeks as of this recording, how that goes. And I want to hear what comes out of that too. So what else?
Well, one thing that we noticed, and I wrote about this in our book, like after we had a wonderful short film made by Tama Productions, the same filmmakers as May I Be Happy. But when we were taking a look at it and reviewing it, giving our suggestions, we noticed it was very clear that we were a white suburban conference. Mm-hmm. And then it makes you look right away closer at, okay, our whole board of directors, leadership team is all white suburban educators. We had diversity in the types of educators, but no racial diversity. So we all kind of had to take a reflection and acknowledge, we had to have a starting spot, but that we wanted to make an intention to have equity, to really explicitly have COSM foster that in some way within our organization. And then, we know that mindfulness is an equity tool. theoretically. Like I know it in my head and I'm typing it out on the homepage of our website, but
ironically is also suffering from a lack of diversity and equity and inclusion in many of the circles in which we find it. And there are, of course, lots of reasons about that we can talk about another time, but good to hear that there are some intentional efforts around, oh, we've noticed this, and upon noticing it, now I can take some action around how do we change that.
Yeah, and it was just the power of intention, of making that intention, and pretty much within a few weeks, this person named Toby Scruggs Hussein asked on Facebook for a t-shirt, like if we had any t-shirts from our conference, and I'm like, I have a few left over, and then I went to her website and I'm like, wow, she specializes in doing workshops with educators. She was an award-winning urban principal in California. And so we invited her to be on our leadership. She's our president this year, and she's really helped us hit the mark on that. It's not a podcast, but we kind of do a video where we have conversations with different educators on equity-based topics. So we've done like 3 of those so far. And then it's really cool when you make an intention and then different people show up wanting to do different sessions and workshops for a conference on different areas regarding equity. And we found with the book collaboration, I don't know how I think I sent her an email, but Cheryl Watkins, she's the Network 13 chief at Chicago Public Schools, is doing amazing things with mindfulness and equity in her network, and how we connected with her. And we were about done with the book, and she's like, is it too late to get a chapter in the book? And we're like, no, this is important. And like, she whipped up a chapter like in a week. And it's just fun seeing how things unfold with ease when you have an intention and a vision. Because I'm just one person. I wake up, I meditate, I wait for inspired action, and it's just so fun seeing what happens with the little keyboard and email, and who's finding us on our website, and how we're just helping the momentum of the mindfulness and education field in fun, creative ways. So
you've mentioned a couple times now, let's dig into this, a book. So how did this book project come about? Tell us about it.
Well, like most of my ideas, they come to me when I'm meditating in the morning. I don't make the intention to sit there till I get a great idea, but I just kind of check in on my emotions, and depending on what's happening, I work at maybe moving up the emotional scale a little bit to kind of get pumped up and ready for the day. And sometimes it needs music and dancing. Sometimes meditations doesn't quite do it to get me in the mood to have at my computer. But one morning I had the idea. I was putting together the conference, and so many wonderful mindfulness resource organizations were involved with it. And I was like, just the book idea came to me. And again, most of the ideas I have are ideas that other people have actually already have. Like when I talked to Richard Brady, founder of Mindfulness and Education Network, regarding being a part of the book, they were also thinking of doing a book collaboration, and I'm like, all right, let's partner and do this. And so Tim Iverson, who's on the board of directors with that organization, joined our book committee. So we have myself and Tim Iverson, and then Barbara Larrabee, who I know you've interviewed before. She's written a lot of books, and she's on our board of directors. So the 3 of us made a great team, kind of dividing and conquering, because we did a call for proposals in the spring, And by the end of the summer, we had 40, well, I shouldn't say we had 40 proposals and chapter authors. We didn't have that many. It's just unfolded. Like people, we never felt overwhelmed. We thought, how are you going to pull off this book with 40 chapters? And at the start, we didn't know it was going to be 40 chapters. We just figured it was going to unfold. It would show itself to us, and it did. But yeah, the book collaboration, the general thought of it is that just how powerful story is. And I know when I've been at different, say, learning about a different resource. I'm thinking of Inner Explorer off the top of my head. Like when I first saw their website, I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But then I talked to somebody like Lori Grossman from their organization, and they tell these stories about the schools and the transformations that have taken place and what happens out on the playground, and maybe how one teacher was resistant, and then that teacher ends up, 2 years later being the most gung-ho. The most resistant person ends up being the most gung-ho person a few years later. It's just like those stories. They're just so powerful. So I'm like, to have a book that basically tells a bunch of stories, that it could even be something you could gift your administrator, so they, to tell it, you can tell them all the facts, you can show them all the research, and we've all read enough mindfulness articles. It's out there so much, it's everywhere now. It's a little off the hook, actually, the information coming in on mindfulness and such. But when an administrator can see, oh, here's another superintendent, and this is what they did at their school, and really see like the nitty-gritty of how the implementation process happens, and here's the results that they had a few years later, and some just letters from students and such like this, that it's just can be really powerful. So that was our general little thread we wanted to have through the chapters, and we wanted to have a wide range of, like the first section of the book is, we call it Roots, Research, and Responsibility. And we knew we couldn't, like, there was no way that I was gonna, excuse me, there was no way that I could tell the story of mindfulness in education, of how it emerged. Like, that would be more than I could handle. But I figured if we could have a few people from some of these long-standing organizations that have really gotten the movement going to where it is right now, to tell stories a little bit about we wanted each chapter to have like a personal story, like, and then to tell a little bit about the organization and how it has grown and evolved. So that's kind of where the first part of the book starts. And then also going into some of the responsibilities we need to have regarding trauma-informed mindfulness and the importance of secularity and our practices in schools. But then we moved to the second part, having chapters by a school nurse from Illinois, a PE teacher from Alaska, a social worker from, we had a speech pathologist from North Carolina, and how they've integrated mindfulness from their role within a school, just to show that it doesn't just have to be brought into a school in a certain way, like right. Wherever you're at your school, that you can make a difference with personally practicing mindfulness and then teaching it to your kids. And then the third part of the book is on bringing it to your classroom. And then the last chapters are district-wide and beyond. So we have a chapter by like an equity director in Georgia. We have a chapter by Delaware Department of Education, and one by Barnaby Spring from New York City Department of Education. We were so excited. We had to get the approval of their press department, so that was very exciting to get that. That's a really powerful chapter. So yeah, it's some of the last chapters, like it definitely built the book builds, you know. So it was super cool hearing about how Delaware wants to become a trauma-informed state and how the Department of Education is helping to make that happen and how they're partnering with Peer Edge. A lot of our chapters are actually, the chapter authors have partnered with an organization to write the chapter. So not only are you hearing stories, implementation stories and such, but you're also really learning about a bunch of different resources throughout the whole book, so you can kind of see which one resonates most with your learning environment, that you know, and kind of get a good feel for where you maybe can investigate and learn more, rather than there's a lot of resources out there now, so it's not necessarily an easy decision of where to get started. But
well, that's one of the interesting things, that as you're talking about this and describing the different chapters in the book, is this is a collection, is not just the varied perspectives of different voices talking about mindfulness in schools, but it's not just one thing, that there are very different contexts. And so people who have just about anything to do with education in some way will find something within this book that's going to be helpful and beneficial to them in whatever their particular context is.
yeah. No, we're starting pre-order on Amazon next week. We'll be selling it at our conference. We decided to independently publish. That was a big decision that at first I was feeling guilty about telling everybody that we were going to independently publish. But the more we thought about it, just because we have such a quickly growing base of educators, and we're partnering with over 20 resource organizations for this book who can all help with the promotion of it. It was almost like, well, what is a publishing company going to do for us? Like, that's almost what I wanted to be, you know, if I had a chance to talk to them, that would have been my question. Where it's usually a publishing company, they're asking that of the author, how are you going to help promote the book?
Right.
So it seemed like with having Barbara Larrabee on board, and I have a strong writing skills for editing, it felt like we didn't necessarily need help with that aspect of the book. And then we just hired a book layout designer who's been great. And so we're learning as we go with independent publishing, and Amazon's gonna obviously help us a bunch in doing podcasts like this. And we're also our other idea, because we've seen lots of great online learning summits in the mindfulness community. We thought that would be great to, obviously the organizations who are part of the book, as well as some other could be affiliates and help us promote the book that way. And then we're like, well, why just do it once for the book launch? Let's do it every spring, because it works out perfectly, because we try to record as many conference sessions as possible. We know not everybody can or wants to fly into Chicago in February. So it's a really affordable professional development option. We call it our Mindful Learning Center. And then you can have access to this growing video library, and we'll promote that in our online summit, give free access to it for a few days each spring so that people can view some of the conference session recordings. And this year we're doing something special, because about half of the chapter authors are able to make it to the conference. So I'm pairing them up to read each other's chapters and then interview each other, you know, ask each other questions about their chapters, and so do these. So we'll have about 10 fun chapter author chats as part of the online summit. So that's going to be April 23rd to 26th. And we'll get more information out to everybody when that gets closer. So yeah, we're very excited. It's been, 6 months that we've been working on that. So December got a little intense as I was trying to do some conference. I dropped the ball on some conference organizational stuff because it was just, needing to get the manuscript ready. But
Lots
hey,
of moving parts.
just more reasons to have that radical self-compassion, right? It all worked out.
So in describing so much of the contents of what's in the book, I'm wondering if there are some parts of it that touched you personally, if there are some things that really stood out for you in some way.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back with this equity issue again. We had Tovi, our president this year, she wrote the last chapter of the book. And a lot of the chapters, I mean, people were very open and, the vulnerabilities of their hearts were shown. And so there's a lot of emotions. It's a little like chicken soup for the soul when you're reading some of these chapters. You'll be cheering them on and then you'll have tears by the end of certain things. But I'm just really new to everything regarding equity. And Tovi in her chapter, she really shared like when she was a principal and going into these meetings where, teachers are talking about the students that looked like Tovi. Tovi was one of the only Black educators at the high school, and just how it's like when she became principal of this high school, then years later, it's like she's in this like week-long meditation and she's just asking God, please, like how do we make a change here, and how do I lead and make this change and get these white people to listen to me, or and so just her revelations during her meditation sessions and her sharing that, and then she just goes really deeper than even any of the other chapters, and it really moved me. And yeah, I don't know. I came away from the book just very clear that we're on the right path, and that it just waking up and being excited that I can be the leader of this coalition and keep helping change the world in a better way, just with all these other amazing people. It's just, yeah. So that was they're all the chapters. I mean, when someone shares, hey, I had an anxiety breakdown, and if you're another educator reading that story, and it just, to have someone be going through the same thing maybe you are with burnout and such, that you're not just someone who can't handle it, that it's just a really powerful book in that sense as well.
I'm wondering if you have some maybe personal, maybe maybe more public and COSM oriented aspirations about the book, and for those that are reading it, what do you hope readers might get out of this, particularly educators?
Yeah, we actually at not the last minute, but we're like, after the chapters, we're like, I think we need a reflection chapter, because everybody's just read all of this, and I'm going to go to it right here because I was just looking at it. So Barbara helped us write up this really great reflection final reflection for the end of it. And of course we want that to we had to reiterate the 3 messages that pretty much the chapters kept reiterating over and over again, that we want everybody to start with their own practice. We want them to make self-care a priority. And then, of course, we want to ensure the practices, they can stand the test of secularity and all that good stuff. But I guess those are the big things, the importance of the personal practice, because even the stories that the educators tell, it all really, the thread through it is personal practice, and how that has transformed the educators' lives, brought new energy to wanting to be an educator, and how just doing that, calming your own nervous system and regulating your own nervous system, and that the container that you have as a classroom, and an effect that can have on your container of your world with your special students. That's really all that needs to happen. The rest of it is definitely, obviously, supercharges learning and all those other cool stuff, but just to start with personal practice and not having to rush past that step is probably the biggest message.
Thank you for that. So for those who are interested in finding out more, I'm going to have a link to the Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. And if you don't go to the episode page, but you should, that address is educatingmindfully.org. So be sure to check that out as well. I'll also have a link to the book, the pre-order on Amazon. And of course, a link to our previous interview with Tracy. Tracy, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners before I let you go?
No, I don't think so. I just thank you in advance if you're going to purchase our book, because that will support our mission, meaning it'll allow me. I've been volunteering the last 2 years. I quit my job a few years ago, and to follow my bliss here. So we're hoping that if my salary can be sustained, then we have a lot of other great ideas that educators have given us, but we just don't have a big enough team to make them happen yet. But we know it's all the fun in the unfolding. And so I guess the other way you can support us is joining us for the online summit this spring, and then checking out our Mindful Learning Center that you can purchase, and that helps support our mission as well. And you'll get free access to our growing video library. And of course, you have to subscribe to our newsletter so you can keep updated on everything mindfulness and education. We try to have a calendar at the end of each newsletter that shows all the different professional development happening throughout the globe, online and in person. So if you're listening to this and you have a mindfulness resource, or you provide trainings, to get in touch with me at hello@educatingmindfully.org, so that we can get your resource up on our resource webpage, as well as when you're doing a training or such, that we can share that in our newsletter. And we're just looking forward to future collaborations with different educators, different organizations, continue being that joining forces organization in the mindfulness and education field.
Great. Well, our guest today, Tracy Heilers. Tracy, thanks for being here. Good speaking with you again.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come and visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About Podcast Music page. Until next time, remember, Every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.